So, in less than an hour, House Speaker John Boehner is expected to call Congress members back to Washington for a vote on a fiscal cliff deal, assuming one can be hammered out. And of course, that's a very big if. Joining me now is one of those members, Oklahoma Congressman James Lankford, and you're there at the Cannon Rotunda. So give us the inside scoop here. I mean, what do you make of this current impasse?
It's a very frustrating impasse. Remember, the House actually passed our sequestration documents in May, so we gave plenty of time for the Senate. The Senate has stalled and stalled and stalled, and we are still at that same spot, waiting on the Senate. Mitch McConnell and Reid are meeting again today, and we're still waiting for Harry Reid to be able to move something through the Senate to respond to what we passed in May in the House of Representatives. Okay, so we're all watching the Senate as well.
I'm sorry, Congressman, what do you make then of the compromises that are on the table and the sticking points that are in play?
Yeah, there's really no big compromise on the table that we've seen come out of the Senate at this point. What we have put out in the House, the way basic legislation works, we pass something in the House, the Senate passes something, and then we do a compromise agreement from that. We did our part in the House 7 months ago to pass something, and we're still waiting on the Senate to be able to respond to that. The frustrating thing about this, we're at the final hour. This was no big surprise to anyone. A year and a half ago, we resolved this, set this deadline. And so why the Senate hasn't responded until now, we have no idea.
But haven't there been talks in the meantime and concessions that have been bantied about? Anything that
Sure.
Anything that satisfied you at all?
There have been conversations and talks, but at the end of the day, that's all talk. You actually have to have a piece of legislation to be able to negotiate from, and we're still waiting on that piece of legislation. So while all these conversations have happened back and forth, we're still waiting for Harry Reid to be able to pass something in the Senate and be able to send it back over so we can amend it and get this thing done. So we're here. We're waiting. The House is in place. We're voting on some simple votes tonight in anticipation of the Senate sending something back over. They have told us that they are working hard on that. We're waiting for that, and we're sitting here ready to go.
So is it about the spending cuts and reducing the deficit that is your sticking point?
Yeah, the biggest issue that we're dealing with right now is spending. If you look at 2007 versus 2012, the federal government spends $1 trillion more a year now than what we did 5 years ago. And the little dirty secret that everyone throws around all the time about tax revenue, saying we need to raise taxes to solve this, is absolutely not true. This past year, 2012, the federal government received the third highest amount of revenue in the history of the United States. Third highest amount of revenue under this particular tax code. If we had this particular taxes for the spending of 2007, we would have had a balanced budget. This is very simply a spending-driven issue that we've got to take seriously. We cannot just continue to raise taxes to the level to be able to accomplish all the spending that's going on.
And of course, the president has offered some compromises, and I think everybody agrees, and I believe that you guys agree that even if you discontinue those Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, it still won't fill in the gap. It won't complete it won't fill the hole, so to speak. So what is it, though? I mean, this is what everybody keeps hearing. The Americans are, as you understand, quite frankly, they're sick of hearing this. It's kind of like you toss the ball on your side. No, it's your fault. I mean, so is there any way that you guys can come up with some sort of solution by 12:01 Tuesday morning?
There are always options that are out there. We're waiting to see what the Senate can actually pass and get done. But at the end of the day, if you took all of the tax increases for every single bracket, they raising the estate taxes, all the Obamacare taxes that kick in, you take all of those tax increases there, which actually would take it to a level higher than what it was during Bill Clinton for every single level, we would still have twice as high of a deficit than any year during the Bush administration, even with all taxes increasing on every single bracket. That's why we say this is not a tax issue. This is clearly a spending issue.
So, Congressman,
and until the president can come to that, we're not going to get to a solution because we're not dealing with the real problem.
What specifically, then, is it that the president, if he came to you right now and gave you a sheet of paper, what do you want to see on that piece of paper? Specifically.
You know what? I can show them that piece of paper. We actually passed it in the House in May. In May, we passed a $200 billion tax cut, or not tax cut, but a $200 billion spending cut that identifies fraud and waste in government, and went through specific programs and said this is a program that's wasteful, it's duplicative, this is a program where there's fraud in it. We identified all of those. The Senate has never acted on that.
Then
so
why
it wouldn't just be
is
some
that?
proposal. We don't know. That's the frustration that we have in the House, is that we actually did things early for once. And you can look at that. People can say whatever they want to about the House and where we are. We did our job. We did it early. We did it in May, and we have waited 7 months for a response that people, if they look at it, they would go, that's eliminating fraud and duplication in government. That's a simple way to be able to resolve this. And that has not been responded to at all. So that's where we are as the House to say, come on, if you don't like eliminating fraud and duplication, take any part of that you want to and say, if we can't do even the simplest thing on that, where can we cut spending?
So is there going to be a deal?
You know what? I'm going to wait with you on that one. We're in the House of Representatives. We're waiting on the Senate, and we're going to watch the other side of the Hill and see what they pass in the next couple of hours.
We're all waiting. We need you guys to get something done, Congressman.
We do too.
Congressman James Lankford, thank you very much for taking the time out. So go get back to work now to figure this thing out for us. Thank you.
Maybe if we made them